you know what? Don't undersell yourself and don't put yourself where you just get complacent in life. Life is too short and you need to just get out there and live it and take risk and enjoy. And you know what? You might not have just enough money you need for that vacation, but go do it anyway because you just never know. Life is to be lived and, money shouldn't dictate your happiness. So, enjoy your kids, enjoy your wife, enjoy your family and just get the most that you can out of life while you're above ground. And, just give thanks to the good Lord for creating you because, again, God created you to be extraordinary. Go do it.
Welcome to Erase PTSD Now, the podcast, erasing the silence. Here we bring trauma out of the shadows and into the conversation. You'll hear real stories, survivors, veterans, clinicians, researchers. Together we'll explore the healing treatment and the science behind the stellate ganglion block. This isn't just another podcast. It's a movement, and one that demystifies trauma, elevates unheard voices, and inspires action.
So, welcome back to the podcast. We have real conversations about trauma, resilience, and the resources that help people move from surviving into thriving. Today's guest is Timothy T.K. Klund, U.S. Air Force veteran, corporate executive, philanthropist, and founder and CEO of Verve Systems. TK has built brands for elite athletes and celebrities, founded nationally recognized charity events supporting veterans and children, and continues to lead performance, production, and recovery. But today we're talking about something deeper: identity, pressure, resilience, and what happens when high performers carry invisible weight. TK, welcome. Can't wait to hear
Thank
you.
you. Now you can see why I have those bags underneath my eyes. I always tell everybody I want to be a celebrity just so I can wear sunglasses all the time so I can cover them up. But until that point, you're just going to have to look at those beautiful bags.
Well, listen, you look very handsome from what I see, and if you feel that there's bags there, you should be wearing those medals of honor for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, they're definitely earned. I can promise you that.
Well, let's saying that. So you're a military veteran. How did your experience shape the definition of strength for you?
You know what? Obviously, it wasn't my first choice. To be honest, going in the military, I wanted to go play college football. I wanted to, chase girls and party and throw the pigskin. And I did a lot of that in high school. And because of that, I ended up in the Air Force and didn't really pay attention to my grades overly like I should have. And my dad was nice enough to take me and get me a job. And we pulled up one morning in front of the Armed Forces recruiting offices, and he said, "They're all hiring, and you can pick one." And now that you're getting ready to graduate, you're no longer staying at this house. So, yeah, that's how the Air Force and I got together. And but I can tell you, probably the best thing could ever happen to me is one of the best things my dad ever did for me in shaping me up. And just the opportunity for the teamwork and the structure and camaraderie, and I had a phenomenal career in the Air Force. So, yeah, I wouldn't have changed it for anything in the world.
I imagine you didn't feel like it was the best thing in the world though when your dad dropped you off there and said, "Here."
No, no, not at all. I had other grander plans of, living the '80s out, which it would have lasted maybe one semester if I did get in because I wouldn't have taken school seriously at all. And it was just prolonging it. So yeah, he was smart enough to see what was the writing on the wall. And he was a Army veteran, and my grandfather, his dad, was a retired Army veteran. And so my uncle was in the Air Force in World War II. And my dad and my grandfather both were driving 18-wheelers when they got out, long haulers. And my uncle was a successful business person. And I just didn't want to, I felt like if I went in the Army, I'd probably be driving 18-wheelers too. And I didn't want to do that. So I followed my uncle's footsteps and went to the Air Force. Plus, the blue looked a lot better with my eyes than the green would have. So I went with that.
There you go. Gotta throw that vanity in there, and I like
Yeah.
it. I like
Yeah.
that. There you go. Um, all right. So that did a lot of shaping of you and the teamwork, like you said. I gotta ask, was boot camp as bad as they say?
I actually gained, my high school football practices were harder than boot camp when I went in the '80s. I mean, I gained weight in boot camp from the food and lack of exercise, honestly. The good news is today, though, they bumped it up a little bit now from what I've seen. And yeah, they've taken it to another level. So I'm glad to see that. But yeah, when I was in there, it was yeah, about as basic as it could be as far as actually the exercises and stuff. So
And then how many years did you stay in that?
I was in for 6.5 years. Mhm. I took the early out in '95, to actually go back to play college football with my little brother at Southeast Missouri State,
Oh,
and, so I took the early out and got everything set up for that fall semester, and I had gotten out in the spring. My brother had just finished his sophomore year there, and, I think he finished as an All-American, I believe, but yeah, it was just that was to go, and then a classmate of mine who had graduated about 5 years ahead of me was smart enough to say, again, "Klund boy, you're only going there to chase girls and play football. It's not go you're gonna be 30 something years old by the time you even graduate, but it's only gonna last 1 semester, so don't waste your time. Come work for me in, corporate sales, and, let me show you what I'm making," and he did, and I was like, "Oh my god," that was like Donald Trump money to me back in those days after, being in the Air Force, and, I went and talked to the, head coach, and the head coach told me, he's like, "Klund, if you can make that type of money and you don't have to go to college and rack up any student loan debt or anything like that, 100%, that's what you need to do." And so that's what I did, and, that kicked off my, career in sales.
good for you. And, they said that to us in business where I was in college too, but it's such a foreign concept. Like, huh? How do you do that? But you actually did it. All right. So with that you touched on a lot of experience. So you've worked with a lot of elite performers. Do you see trauma or emotional strain show up differently in high achievers?
They hide it pretty well. Most high achievers, that I know, there are certain things that and I've learned from them that we do that honestly is uncomfortable doing it, but we do it. I get up, about 3:45 every morning, get my, in-home workout, my cardio, my core workout done from 4 to 5 so my wife can get in there and do her 5 a.m. workout, and then I usually read while she's doing hers, whether it's a self-help book, the Bible, you name it, anything just kinda motivate me, get me going, and really just get me reading. I'm not a big fan of reading, or I wasn't, so I just kinda forced myself to be a fan of reading. And then usually a quick walk around the block with the pup, and then I'm off to the gym to actually get my lift with my trainer. So, but I'm overly structured with my day. Before I go to bed, literally in my home office, I'll have my entire day printed out on top of my laptop. So first thing in the morning when I come in to read, I already know what my day is. It's already planned. I don't have to worry about it. And also when I go to bed, I already know what I'm doing tomorrow. So I don't have to sit in bed and wonder like, oh, what I got to do tomorrow or any of that. I can actually go to bed, enjoy, watch TV with my wife or whatever we do, read, you name it, and get a good night's rest and get going again next day.
All right. So since you brought up reading, who inspires you most when you're reading?
I don't have anybody one offer. I look for, books of more topic than I do authors. One thing I really am deep in with is frequencies and vibrations, Nikolai Tesla on the power of 369 and different things like that when it comes to manifesting and, your conscious and subconscious working together in unison and things like that that actually help me tune in. I'm just if I'm not reading, I'm probably watching a Jim Rohn video or, different motivational individuals like that, even biblical motivational videos in the morning. So again, nobody in particular, just really more topic than anything else.
I like that. So you brought up vibration and 369. Do you want to talk about that a bit? Or you want to jump over something else? Because
No, I mean, it's so important, with frequencies and vibrations, years ago, somebody had told me, if you go back to Exodus in the Bible, when Moses stand in front of the burning bush and he asked God who he was, and God said, I am of that I am, you know, then the preacher was like, and you're the I am of the I am, because he created you and he's giving you the power within yourself to create your own universe. That's when I kind of got really intrigued, like, hold on a second, let me think about this. And then um, I was reading The Power of 369, and there's a lot of biblical principles in that book. Amazing book, and also talk about Nikolai Tesla. And so the books that kind of helped me, I guess, reach inside myself and on the outside of myself and just, focus within myself. Those are the actual books that I like to read, I actually get into. Just reading to read, I hate it. It's just too boring for me. I'm out of it. So, but if this keeps me intrigued and again keeps me motivated to continue reading, then yeah, I'll breeze right through a book.
well, that's a good habit for sure.
Yeah, well, we're trying to. I used to hate reading because I was always told growing up I wasn't really good at it. So one of my high school teachers that was kind of like, ah, probably not very good at this. I took great pleasure in sending her the first book that I actually wrote that got published, and told her that a lot of it because of her. And she was a great teacher. It wasn't that I wasn't a good reader; is I wasn't a good student. I was lazy. So I just sent that to her, told her she was some motivation, and I appreciated her staying up my rear end and kind of forcing that square peg, the AKTK, into that round hole to get me to do some stuff. And yeah, I got some great compliments from her on it, and she it was funny because she said, "I thought you always thought you were a good student, actually." And I go, "Well, I was probably good enough that you gave me that D just to slide by your class in high school, but she's like, "No, no, I always loved you. I just, I forgot your grades back then." So thank God for personality over actual classwork. So yeah, she couldn't really remember, but yeah, she's overly proud, and I was thankful for her to be that teacher that kind of kept me motivated.
TK, you say that. Now I'm wondering if you had ADHD in school or
No,
something.
if something's boring, I'm out. Just don't have time for it.
I like that honesty. You're not blaming it on ADD or anything. You're just
No,
saying,
I don't have none of that
tear
stuff.
it down.
Thinks that my wife thinks I do. I always laugh at her and go, "No, it's just boring, and I'm not wasting any time on it." Conversation is the same way. It's just if it's just I'm out, and so again, there's classes I excelled at because of the way the teachers taught that kept you involved with the actual class. But if there's a teacher just up there, Charlie Brown, wonk, wonk, wonk at the chalkboard, I probably wasn't overly motivated in that class. And again, if there's classes that I enjoyed to my attention span, then obviously, I was all over it. But I always tell everybody my best two classes was study hall and boys sports. So those were the classes that kept me most entertained. So yeah, that's what we did.
That is fantastic. And I love that blood honesty. That's so true. And I
Is
think
what it is.
exactly. All right. So now you're an expert in personal branding. Is there a difference between building a strong public image and actually being okay internally? And
I've seen them both. I've seen people with a strong public image that's just train wreck on the inside, that most people wouldn't know if they weren't, didn't know 'em personally. And then I've seen people, what you see is what you get, right? Matthew McConaughey, what you see is what you get. That dude is 100%, what he preaches, what he talks about, what he does. That's exactly how he is when you meet him, when you talk to him, when you spend time with him. And then there's other people that just, they put on a certain persona for their public brand, even though they're dealing with a lot of other craziness on the personal side. So it just, I think, depends more on the person and what they're dealing with at that time, at that moment, like anybody else. Everybody has a brand. People don't realize that you don't have to be a celebrity or a sports star or anybody else to have a brand. Every single person has a brand. Your name is really your most important identity, and that's what people are going to associate with you. And if you do good things, and people are going to associate your brand of being a good individual, and great things tend to come. And if you're an individual who your name gets not so good, then you probably aren't going to do very well because you don't realize that you're actually hurting your own personal brand and nobody's going to want to do anything with you. But everybody has a brand. Everybody has a value that I don't think they realize as well either that goes along with their personal name and brand.
that is probably very true. And people trying to figure out that value, I would imagine.
Hmm.
Uh, hey, how do you guide somebody if they're trying to figure out their value? They don't know what it is.
Well, it's funny. I guarantee you, I get one phone call a day, if not two phone calls a day from somebody, a friend or somebody I know that will call me and say, "Hey, I'm kind of in a rut. I don't really know which way to go. You know, let me tell you where I'm at. What do you think?" And my thing always responds to them is, who do you actually want to be? And what do you want to do? And I bet you 9 out of 10 of them have no idea. They just don't know who they want to be, really what they want to do. And again, I go back to Moses at the burning bush. God didn't create us to be ordinary. He created all of us to be extraordinary. And I think people, for the most part, through the way we grow up, through the way we're taught, through the way, we're always told you have to be this or you have to do that. And it actually puts limits on us. And luckily for me, I've always had that nonconformity attitude since I've probably been about 12. Like, yeah, I'm not doing it. And so it's kind of worked out for me because I've never put any expectations or limitations on myself because coming out of the gate, I didn't have a lot of value personally. I didn't think outside of again playing sports or doing what I like to do, to really add any value. And as I went along and grew within my career and just with different opportunities I had, I started learning that I actually had a lot of value in what I do and who I am. Um, and then the more I believed in that within me, the more my value came, the more when people were like, "Hey, we're wanting to hire you here. What would it cost us?" I would throw a pretty high number out there and people paid it. And then I was like, "Oh, maybe I shot low." And so I think everybody, again, you're always told in school, high school, do good in high school so you can get into a good college and you can get a good diploma, degree. And so then you're in college and you're working to what you want to be and who you want to be. And then you're told after college, get married, raise a family, buy a house, do this, do that. And life changes in so many directions, where you think you want to start and where you end up is usually two completely different opportunities because as we grow in life, things change within our personal lives that we go, "Hey, I'm here now, but I'm not really enjoying this career path anymore, and I really wanna go that way." But it's very, very hard to do that stuff later in life when you have a lot of financial obligations, towards your family. So it's very hard, but again, I'm a risk taker and I'm definitely not let me put my asterisk on it. Don't follow in TK's footsteps because it's just not an easy thing. I don't care how much money I'm making. And there's been jobs I was making, very high six figures and would be like, I'm done because I want to go a different direction. I don't like the integrity of what we're doing here and I'm out of here. My wife, God bless her soul because I remember a couple of times coming home and she's like, "What are you doing home this early in the day?" "Well, yeah, I quit today." "What? What? Oh my God, what are we gonna do from now?" "I don't know. It'd be all right." And it is always all right. But, sometimes jumping out of the nest instead of get kicked out of the nest also gives you an opportunity to fly. So I've just never been one of those people that I worry about anything. I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. But I do believe a lot of people, and it's usually the people that are in their 40s or 50s that are calling me going, "Hey, I'm bored with where I'm at, and I just don't feel like I'm getting the value of what I should be getting out of life." And that's a sad place to get into early on. So I do condition and talk to a lot of people like, no matter what you do, you need to hold yourself high value. And even if you have to, even if you're over here in this career now and you have aspirations to maybe one day be over there, we'll start working towards those aspirations right now while you're doing this career. So it's not such a dramatic jump over when you do make that change. But, life is meant to be enjoyed and lived to the fullest and, not being rewarded with a 2-week vacation and missing all your family time and everything else throughout the year of, working your rear end off just to get that, paycheck. So it just depends on the individual. Some people are happy with that. And I tell them, God bless too. Some people are happy just, you know, what I call Groundhog Day every day, you know, until they're ready to retire and move on with whatever. So it really just depends on the individual. Personally, that's not me. I'm never satisfied. I'm always looking for how much more can I do? Let me back up. I am satisfied with my life. I'm just this satisfaction is I just always feel like there's more for me to do and how much more can I accomplish and how much, more can I achieve. So I'm always constantly trying to get to another level personally.
And it seems like you do. So, why don't you tell us about Stop Whining and Start Winning? This is one of my favorite titles ever.
Yeah. So, again, having some success in corporate America and leaving corporate America and then starting my own company and instead of being the majority owner, I was a minority owner. I actually started a brand with somebody else who already was kicking off their brand, and I spent 6 years on building that brand and just didn't like where it was going. I said, "Hey, just buy me out." And I had a publishing group asking me to write a book on my actual life and a biography, and I had some time on my hands after they bought me out, and I did, and I wrote the biography, and I read it, and I was like, "Well, this sucks. Like, there's nothing exciting about this guy personally." And I said, "If you let me write the book I want to write a book that is more so would help, young teenagers, guys or girls, young adults, maybe in college, young adults in corporate America, maybe middle management people on kind of how I got from A to Z, you let me write that book and I'll do that. And they're like, man, we've never done a self-help book. And I was like, well, it's take it or leave it. And I was kind of ho humming even about that, like just where I was, I felt like, oh my God, here I am back at square one again. Da, da, da. My wife came in one day and she was like, I wish you'd just stop whining and get back to winning. And that's where I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna steal that." So instead of get back to winning it, we just said start winning. So stop whining, start winning. And, yeah, just breezed right through that book. And it's funny, that was only 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And man, that book feels like 100 years ago in where I was at that point and even where I am today. It literally is a completely different individual, completely like farther up the ladder. And it's amazing and really what's been achieved in 7 or 8 years personally for me. But yeah, now they're telling me they want me to write another one. So I am working on that too.
So you say that, and you say that with a smile and a nod of where you've gone from there. Tell us a little about that.
Well, it's just, because it's never easy, right? And when you can start enjoying failure, I guess, where failure doesn't, you know, no big deal. When you can get to that point, you're limitless on what you can achieve. And really around that time frame is from all the just getting my rear end kicked and, not, financially, we weren't making what we normally were making, but we were okay on everything we were doing. But I was just kind of in the mud. And then a lot of it was just mental too. But once I got out of the mental space of like, okay, I'm pulling up my bootstraps and we're getting back in the fight. And really it was my wife who was like, you need to create your own companies, your own brands. You've always teamed up with somebody else. You do all the stuff you're supposed to do, but you don't have the final decision making and you just need to do your own companies. And it scared me a little bit because I'm not a big fan of being a CEO, but I thought about it and then I decided, you know what, let me surround myself with the smartest people who aren't good at what TK does and are great at what TK is not great at. And let me surround myself with those people and let's build these other brands and companies. And that's what we did. And yeah, it's been amazing.
So talk about that. What'd you build?
Well, we have our Verve Systems LLC, actual overall LLC. Underneath it is a bunch of performance brands, health and wellness performance brands. And also growing up with a single mom, I know how hard it was for her to work to afford everything for us. And we probably did get the vitamins and stuff we needed, but we were always outside. We never got sick and very athletic. But, I feel like today, in today's world, to be healthy, you got to be wealthy. If you want to eat right, there's an unbelievable cost for eating right compared to not eating right. And during COVID, I remember my wife and I were shopping and we had the little handheld basket. We probably had $100 worth of, you know, her organics and all the fruits and vegetables stuff in that. And a mom came by with 2 kids, which reminded me of my mom, and she had the hot dogs and the milk and the cereal and the macaroni and cheese and the all the stuff that I absolutely love. But unfortunately, my wife, has broken that relationship up with my junk food girlfriend, so and my Little Debbie relationship, she broke that off a long time ago too, which I'm still overly disappointed on breaking up with Little Debbie. But, with that, that's when I realized, like, that mom, her basket will last her a couple weeks at $100. Our basket's gonna last us a couple days at $100, but really they need what we have in the basket. And that's when you start realizing, like, yeah, this is, the way this is all set up is set up for failure. So when we started doing our brands, especially our vitamin sprays, because when COVID came out, my wife is a health nut anyway, so she spent a lot of money on vitamins. You got to take all these vitamins, blah, blah, blah. And after about 2 days of taking all the vitamins she told me I need to take, I was like, you know what? I'm out of here because I'm going to be dying because I'm not taking any more of I hate taking pills. And my partner was like, man, too bad we don't know somebody who can make a spray for us. And I said, you know what? I do know somebody. I haven't talked to this doc in 20 years. Hang on. And probably 30 minutes later, he was like, I'll make all your sprays for you. So we actually invested in his lab and yeah, he's handling all of our sprays for us at this point. And, they're 19.95 after you put the coupon in with with and they're a must supply, and you just squirt them in your mouth, and you get 90% absorption rate compared to a pill that's about 20-25 at best. That's about 4 times the cost of ours for a month, and they're TSA approved, so you take them right through TSA in your backpack or, in your purse. So, we do that. We do a performance mouthpiece. That's actually where we kinda started this brand because I'd done the mouthpieces before for 10 years and had a lot of special operation command and, in the US military and also, all my 1% sport players and college athletes wearing them, and our mouthpieces is all about oxygen. We have a lower one that is all about performance, and if you're worried about losing teeth, you wear the upper, but they do the same thing. They keep your airway open when you're under, duress. So, right now, we're getting ready this summer to go back into the Air Force Academy with our studies with that, which is exciting, and then we have a, kinesiology tape called our V tape that, has a frequency in it for pain, but again, the frequencies are just at a different level with me personally on what they can do to actually help your body. Your entire body is built off frequency and vibration. So, and mainly water. So, you don't need a lot of food to survive. And actually, the less food you eat, you're probably more healthier you're going to be, honestly.
Probably wise advice. And that's you go back to the sound waves and all. Do you like the sound baths?
You know what? I do. In that book, The Power of 369, it talks about frequencies in there, and frequencies are broken down kind of like DNA. So, if you're at 4 to 32 hertz, that's universal frequency. 528 is a healing frequency. 963 is God's frequency in it, and it tells you what these different frequencies would do for your bodies. Right, and there's a bunch of them. But depending on the day in my home office, I'll pick one of those frequencies, and I'll just go to YouTube and click it on, and it's pretty much 24/7, and that tone will just be playing while I'm in my office working or reading or even on conference calls. But what it does is, you know, that tone actually correlates with your body, and that vibration and that frequency tells your body a certain thing that needs to be done. And again, it's so interesting. I'll be 56 this year, and honest to goodness, I'm probably in the best shape I've had probably ever been. And I don't eat after 6 p.m. I usually don't eat until probably 1 or 2 p.m. And I'll have just, I'll eat anything I want really, but I always do it in moderation. But again, with sleeping and with vibrations and with the frequencies and different things that I've been working with and our vitamin sprays, and yeah, it's been unbelievable for me personally. So, I'm kind of also one of those people that, you're not going to see me as a healthcare CEO that's, way overweight, preaching on how great my products are. It's kind of one of those that, if you're going to be in that health and wellness space, and you probably need to make sure you don't just, you preach it, you actually do it as well. So, but again, I am such a big competitor. It's just my wife won't let me play sports anymore, even co-ed, anything, just any sports, rec sports, anything. Because she's like, you're just going to get out there and get hurt. I really just turned the competition towards the guy I see every morning in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth on just how much more can I, get out of this guy per day. So that's really where, even getting up at 3:45 and doing the 4 a.m. club. And I started doing the 4 a.m. thing because Mark Wahlberg, he's always preaching his 4 a.m. club, blah, blah, blah. And, my wife's like, oh, Mark's up at 4 a.m. getting his workout in, there's no way you can do that, da, da, da. So I was like, I'm going to start getting up at 4 a.m. and doing my cardio and my core before you get up and start your workout. And then I'm going to use that hour to go read. Oh my God, we'll see. So it's usually a little bit of that. My wife definitely knows how to get me motivated with the, yeah, I doubt it comments. And I think she does a lot of that stuff just to get me motivated, just to prove to her I could do it. But hey, it's working. So usually takes me a little while to figure out I just got suckered in on something. But yeah, it's been actually pretty amazing getting up at 3:45 and getting it in.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now
Yeah.
tell us a little about your philanthropy before we.
Veterans and children are my two things. And if it correlates with either one of those, I'm in. And whether it's veterans' mental health wellness, whether it's, which is most of them nowadays, unfortunately, but, special needs kids and kids that have been traumatized or, just bad situations. My wife and I, we like to do a lot of those. foundations and help out and get back with those. But I love my veteran, brothers and sisters, but I like the kids more. They're just more fun. So either one of those, we'll do whatever we can. We do a celebrity softball game every year. We have a little mixture of both. We just did our 11th year. This will be our 12th year this year of doing it. And last year we had 25 different charities, and we were able to raise with all them together over $1 million.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Fantastic.
We got tired of doing all the black tie gala stuff, so I thought, hey, let me create a celebrity softball game I could play with my friends and da da da. I played in the first one in 2015, and then after that game, my wife's like, "Nobody cares to watch Tim Klund playing these games. I mean, if you're putting these events on, you need to Jerry Jones these events. You need to be kissing the babies, hugging your sponsors, doing what you do." And so, yeah, I was one and done. We've had 10 more since that first one, and I haven't played in one since. So, but it's a lot of fun. We have co-ed celebrities from TV, film, screen, sports, and then the same on the veteran side. We have single leg amputees, double leg amputees that play, guys and girls. Mark Furcarell, who is a Boston bombing survivor, I think he's played in every one of our games, who's single leg amputee. And it's just so many amazing people and great people. And then we have a big Friday night party where everybody comes together. I think there's over 1,000 people there last year, and it's invite only. We don't sell tickets to it. So you either know about it or you don't know about it. And I'm not a big fan of sitting down and listen to somebody. So it's literally DJ, bars are open, dance floors open, mix and mingle. We don't do name tags because I'm old fashioned. I think you should have to stick out your hand and, get to meet somebody without knowing who they are before you actually stick your hand out. So it just turns into a great weekend. Then we have a big pool party on Saturday, and then we have the game Saturday night. And it really has become more of a family reunion than anything at this point. So the good news is our title sponsor has committed for after this year 9 more years. So, which I thought was great going, a week before my 55th birthday. Then I walked off the field thinking, wait a minute, 10 more years, I'll be 65 doing these damn things. So, but like my wife said, where are you going? So, okay, well, I guess we'll continue doing them until I'm trying to pawn it off on my kids a little bit, but they enjoy sitting in the suite and having fun more so than all the work. So we'll see. But yeah, it's just fun. It's just a great way for everybody to come back and expand their brands and meet a lot of great people. And, hopefully a lot of those people, everybody meets new people they already know. They go off and do other great things is what I would hope.
Well, you are really something and doing an awful lot of fantastic things for the community and for health and wellness. Thank you for everything that you do. Is there anything you want to leave people thinking about?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, you know what? Don't undersell yourself and don't put yourself where you just get complacent in life. Life is too short. And you need to just get out there and live it and take risk and enjoy. And you know what? You might not have just enough money you need for that vacation, but go do it anyway because you just never know. Don't base everything off, your financial situation. Life is to be lived. And I can promise you, I've had money, I've had no money, I've had money, I've had no money. And be honest with you, I've been just as happy with none than I was with it. And, money shouldn't dictate your happiness. Your surroundings and your quality of life should dictate your happiness. So, enjoy your kids, enjoy your wife, enjoy your family, and just get the most that you can out of life while you're above ground. And, just give thanks to the good Lord for creating you because, again, he doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't create mediocre people. So God created you to be extraordinary. Go do it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I sure do appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Erase PTSD Now, the podcast. If you've been affected by trauma, loved someone who has, or want to be a part of real change, this space is for you. New episodes drop every third Wednesday. Follow Erase PTSD Now so you never miss an episode, and join us in the fight to erase PTSD.